Hello viewers, you are welcome to another edition of Home Affairs on GraceTv. My name is Anita Osadumakondi. Today we are going to talk on managing finances in the Christian home. And as we know it, that money, finances is a major challenge of various families that has caused so many problems like divorce in some families. Okay, with me in the house, I have a woman of God, a God-fearing daughter of Zion, a hard-working woman who is industrious in the person of Mrs. Adiola Akojenu.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure being here.
Yes, you're welcome to Home Affairs on GraceTv. And we are discussing the issues of money that have been a major challenge in our society, in our country, in our families, especially the Christian homes. How do you think we will be able to manage finances as Christians without having challenges or issues in our marriages?
Oh, when we look at the mind of God on finances or money, we look at Haggai 2 verse 8. The Bible tells us that silver and gold is mine. You discover that God is the author of finances, is the author of money, and God also is the author of marriage. So God really wants us, to be independent, as a couple or as a family, and that is why He gave us silver and gold. And the silver and gold that God gave to us is not to cause problem, but to solve problems. And when you look at it at home, you need to put God first in everything. And I think the Bible tells us also that money is the vehicle of the gospel. So you need money to solve so many problems at home. And money should not be a devil at home, but to correct lapses at home. And for couples to really harmonize these gifts or resources that God has given unto us, like I said, we need to put God first because He's the owner of money.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Another question I want to ask is, do you think it's good for couples, as in husband and wife, to have a joint account in the home?
Well, when you look at a Christian home, you discover that whether joint or no joint account, the Bible says that what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. So whether joint or no joint account, I feel money shouldn't be a problem. Like, let me share my own experience. Myself and my husband, we never had a joint account. But then, in managing finances at home, there are ways we go about it. Spending, he spends, I spend. So the issue is not whether joint or no joint. If there is going to be unfaithfulness, even if you have a joint account, the husband may decide to keep spending without the knowledge of the wife. Also, the wife may keep spending without the knowledge of the husband. So, whether joint or no joint, it shouldn't bring a problem at all. It shouldn't be an issue at all. But then, what God, is looking at is your faithfulness to one another and understanding. You need to understand yourselves. You need to understand what you want, to achieve. You need to have common goals. When you have common goals, this issue of finances at all won't be a problem.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Whether we have joint accounts or we have separate account. The most important thing is we should be truthful to ourselves, we should be honest, and we should be open to ourselves so that we'll be able to achieve that goal and that purpose. First of all, you have made goals, you have written some things down to achieve in a year. And for you to achieve this purpose or these goals in a year, you have to be what? Truthful to yourselves. You have to be open. If only you are coming to pick any money from that account for any purpose which is not the right purpose, you should be able to tell your spouse, I have this challenge. This is why I want to take that money. Thank you very much, ma.
Welcome, ma.
Yes, ma. Another question I want to ask, ma, is do you think giving to people will not shorten your ration or will not stop your meeting your goal?
The Bible tells us that it is more blessed to give than to receive. And like I said, it has to be between the husband and wife. Like I'll still use myself as an example. While we were courting, there are some things we wrote down. How to take care of our parents, how to take care of our families, other siblings in the families and friends. What we agreed is that we are going to be doing that even though we have our goals. And having our goals being met will not stop us from doing other things. Only that we really need to know what we are doing. You can't meet the needs of people 100%, but the little you can, you just have to do it. It is more blessed to give than to receive. And again, you really need to avoid excessive spendings. We have this example in the book of Luke 15, verse 14, of a prodigal son. The Bible tells us that he took everything and went to a strange land and spent all and was, I was infirming. And everything, gone like that. He never had anything again. So as children of God, we really need to avoid excessive spendings if we really want our home to be in order as God expects it.
Thank you very much, ma. Thank you, ma.
You're welcome.
As Christians, we really need to avoid spending excessively, especially on things that are unnecessary. Sometimes we see people getting things, we feel like just getting it. I saw people buying it, I bought it. But it was not in your budget. And so that will hinder or hamper our budgets. So another question I want to ask, ma. I see some people planning, saving to meet a target before the year runs out. But at the same time, this same person will borrow here, borrow there, borrow there, borrow from people. How will you manage borrowing and you say you are saving, but you are in the other way around borrowing from people? How are you going to cope with borrowing excessive from other people?
Well, if you look at the Bible, because I would love to support, whatever I'm saying with Bible quotations. When you look at Matthew 14, verse 20, this talks about Jesus Christ feeding 5,000 men. And at the end of the day, there were remnants. And Jesus did not even throw away the remnants. What he said is, he said, gather the remnants. So it then means that God even desires that we imbibe a saving culture as couples or as family at home. Because when you imbibe a saving culture, it means that you are not using, like my mom normally said, that don't use your 10 hands to eat. You don't use the whole of your fingers to eat. Save for the rainy days. When you look at people borrowing or they're getting loan or IOU or whatever, either from office or from bank, though it is not as if it is bad. When you have a project that you want to finance, you can actually approach a bank and get a loan. You know that this project will actually, bring back money to me, you can approach a bank for that. Even with your savings, you add them together and execute that project. So God is not against borrowing for a particular venture or project that will in turn gives you, a kind of a revenue. But then if you now borrow to buy clothes, you borrow to buy things that you don't need, it's not wise. It will put you into trouble as children of God. And that is why you see so many people, they are in trouble. For instance, you want to get wedded, you go and borrow, and you do an elaborate wedding. At the end of the day, you will suffer for it, because there are some things that you're supposed to have achieved within a short time, but whatever you are getting as salary or income, you'll be spending it to finance the loan. So I will say that in such a situation, borrowing should be discouraged, but you can borrow to finance a project that will give you an income in return.
Thank you very much, ma'am. There is a point I want to stress that you made. Some people borrow, just like you said, to decorate themselves, to adorn themselves because of a particular function, a particular party that is coming. They just borrow that money purposely to decorate themselves, to make themselves look good, not as if they are adding to the income of their family or to their business. So that is where borrowing excessively becomes a very big issue, and it's a very bad issue to handle. By the time the husband want to know about this borrowing, this collecting here and there, it turned to problem in the family. Some families have separated because of this. Some families have had challenges that they have not been able to overcome till today because of this excessive borrowing, collecting excessive, unnecessary money for unnecessary things. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for the contribution. Another question I want to ask here is that, as a child of God, how are you going to manage this situation as a child of God? You spend so much to stock your shop, and at the end of the day, income is not coming, people are not coming to buy those goods. How do you handle this situation?
Well, there is nothing God cannot do. You have been in such situations, not once, not twice. But what I did was to turn to God in prayers. I talked to God. I had, for instance, this year I had, let me say early this year, I had some stocks that I was like, hey, if this thing should expire, what will happen? And I turned to God. I prayed to God. I go to my warehouse. I make, I declare, I decree, and it was as if nothing was happening. But to my amazement, God started working. And in fact, even after those goods were sold out, people were still coming. They want to buy this, they want to buy that. And I told them, it's finished though. In fact, the way God did it for me, I never expected. Even from the company, I had already sold, because the product is a product that has a timeline. You just have to sell it within short period because of the expiration. But God moved in and I sold less, the cost. But I was surprised when one of the managers told me that they have done something, that they are going to raise credit note for you just to cover up, your loss. I just looked at God. I said, God, this is how you work. So when you have a challenge like that, don't just keep it to yourself. Go to God in prayers. Tell God, and God will direct you. The Bible tells us that wisdom is profitable, for direct. So you just need to go to God, pray, and God will begin to guide you and bring customers to you.
In conclusion, ma, what advice do you have to give to especially young couples who just got married and ladies, and the husband, out of his income, gives the lady the little money he has to manage the home, and this lady sometimes will flee and say it's not much, it's not enough, and sometimes it will cause a serious problem in the family.
Oh, the Bible tells us that wives are helpmates, for the husbands. Wives are helpmates for the husbands. And again, in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6, the Bible says that godliness with contentment is a great gain. My advice is that wives, the children inclusive, and the husband should be themselves. They should be contented with whatever they have. And even the children could be trained how to eat without meat. Even the husband should be trained how to eat sometimes without meat. So when you are contented, you are yourself. You won't have, this kind of problems that we are talking about. Whatever you have, just stay, within the limits of what you have. Like this advice says, cut your coat according to your size. This time around, it's not your size. It should be according to your material, the material you have. And also, there should be either the husband or the wife should be able to look for ways to get a passive income. In the book of Second Kings chapter 4, we have a story of the wife of the prophet, who the creditor came to take the children, and she cried to the prophet, and the prophet asked her to go and do something. I'm sure before then, maybe the woman was not doing anything. But in the moment she got the advice of the prophet, and she started doing something, money began to come in. So my advice is that to the wife out there, to the husband out there, you just need some additional income. It doesn't matter how little it is. Just look for something that you would do that will bring additional income to you. And again, be yourself. Be contented with whatever you have.